The family and friends of the thousands of people still missing after Hurricane Michael are desperately searching for their loved ones as rescue teams discover bodies in the ruins and rubble along the Florida coast. At least 16 people were killed when the hurricane, the fourth most powerful to ever hit the U.S., struck Florida on Wednesday and swept north through the Carolinas and Virginia, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. 4 people died in Gadsden County, Florida, while in Georgia, 11-year-old girl, Sarah Radney, was killed when a piece of metal carport crashed into her family's trailer and struck her in the head. There were 5 deaths in Virginia, 4 from drowning, including 53-year-old William Lynn Tanksley and 45-year-old James E. King Jr. of Dry Fork, Virginia, who were both killed after being swept away from their vehicles by floodwaters on Thursday. The 5th was Lieutenant Brad Clark, a Hanover County firefighter, who was killed while helping at the scene of a car crash Thursday when a tractor-trailer struck his fire engine. Authorities say 2 others in his crew were seriously injured. The truck driver had to be extricated and also suffered serious injuries. And authorities fear the death toll will continue to rise as search teams have uncovered a number of bodies in the rubble of the ruined homes and businesses. Rescue teams using sniffer dogs carried out a grim search for victims on Friday. Joseph Zahralban, Miami's fire chief, said that search teams found individuals who are deceased among the devastation in Mexico Beach and surrounding Bay County. Zahralban says teams had also rescued several people from Mexico Beach who found themselves trapped or injured after the storm. Thousands more are missing after the storm as family and friends desperately hunt for information on their whereabouts. Mark Bowen, chief of emergency services in Bay County, said in Mexico Beach a tremendous number of people are unaccounted for. In Charlotte County, crews were still looking for a grandmother who was swept away by rushing water. The county administrator said she is presumed dead. Thankfully, plans to erect a temporary morgue have been scrapped, a sign that authorities don't expect mass casualties. "I don't think we know enough," Governor Rick Scott said. "We've got to finish search and rescue." The other thing on top of that, a lot of people get hurt afterwards. That's why we talk about, make sure you know how to use generator. Don't put it inside your house. Be careful with all the chainsaws, and don't touch downed power lines. U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator Long says he expects the death toll from Hurricane Michael to climb because teams haven't gotten to the hardest-hit areas in Florida. Long said Friday that he's worried people didn't evacuate along Mexico Beach or from other devastated locations and may not have survived. Long said very few people live to tell what it's like to experience a high storm surge. The waters rose about 14 feet, 4 meters, pushing buildings aside. The FEMA director says the country doesn't learn enough from past storms, and he's concerned that residents will suffer from hurricane amnesia when blue skies return. He said it's critically important to heed evacuation warnings and to build their homes cautiously and have the proper flood and damage insurance necessary to live in hurricane zones. Long said he'd be traveling to Florida this weekend. State emergency officials say that the search will continue for days, but expect the number of missing people to go down as communications and power are restored. Food, water and supplies have been dropped via helicopter to some of the more remote areas, like St. George Island, Apalachicola, and Port St. Joe, State officials said. State officials said about 432,000 people were still without power Friday afternoon, down from about 565,000 at the height of the storm. Governor Scott said that there were dozens of shelters open for people who had lost their homes in the storm. "We have shelters open, and, as long as there's a need, they're going to stay open," he said. "We'll make sure we provide whatever is necessary. If it's to keep people warm, we'll keep people warm." Scott has opened up the governor's mansion in Tallahassee to state troopers on their way to areas hit hard by Hurricane Michael. Scott and First Lady Ann Scott had dinner on Thursday with 50 troopers, 35 of whom slept in cots inside the mansion. The governor's office said it would continue to use the mansion as a shelter for law enforcement, as long as necessary. Most of Florida's capital is without power, but the mansion has its own generators to provide electricity. The residence is located just north of the state capital. President Donald Trump says he'll visit Florida and Georgia early next week to assess damage from Hurricane Michael. Trump announced his plans on Twitter on Friday, but didn't say what day he'll visit the affected areas. Trump also tweeted that people have no idea how hard Hurricane Michael has hit the great state of Georgia. Michael struck the Florida Panhandle as a Category 4 hurricane earlier this week. Trump says the administration is working very hard on every area and every state that was hit. "We are with you." North Carolina is also cleaning up from Hurricane Michael, the second major storm to rip through the state in a month. Governor Roy Cooper urged the public to stay safe while damage is inspected and not to drive around road barriers. Many of the 40 deaths in North Carolina during Hurricane Florence were of drivers who got caught in floodwaters. The governor said it wasn't clear whether there was enough overall damage to qualify for federal aid to help with the cleanup. Congress already has approved $1 billion for North Carolina's response to Florence. Oil and gas workers are now returning to drilling rigs and production platforms in the Gulf of Mexico, but oil production remains down by about 1/3 as operations are restarted. The Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement said in a report Friday that 32.4% of oil production and a little more than 13% of natural gas production in the Gulf remain shut down. The agency bases its estimates on daily reports from operators. The Bureau says workers remained evacuated from only 9 of the 687 staffed platforms in the Gulf, and that all unmoored rigs that were moved as the storm approached have returned to their drilling spots. The Walt Disney Company is donating $1 million for relief efforts to areas devastated by Hurricane Michael. The company said Friday in a news release that the money will be funneled through the Florida Disaster Fund. The news release also says contributions from employees to eligible relief groups will be matched dollar for dollar through a matching gifts program. Disney has a 70,000-person workforce in Florida at its Walt Disney World theme park resort in the Orlando area,